Hello everyone. Huh. Money. Moolah. Smackaroos. Big cheese. Everyone wants it, and yet it remains elusive. And money is especially valuable if you're trying to fund an insurgency. So, in the early 20th century, Russia was a dodgy place, with attempted revolutions about as common as jokes about Russia and vodka. The Bolsheviks, some of the revolutionaries, thought, how do you revolt? With guns. And how do you get guns? With money. And how do you get money? From banks. Within the Bolsheviks were Lenin and a few other dweebs, and there was someone else you might have heard of, Joseph Stalin, the face of Tash magazine for 3 decades. And for this brilliant and daring heist, Stalin had put together a crack team. First, he had an inside man who'd let him know when there'd be a money delivery. Apparently, this guy's main reason for joining was that he really liked Stalin's poetry. Then there was the guy who made lots of the bombs and grenades from random scraps. We should hang out sometime. The last guy in Stalin's genius team was called Camo, and was the one who had the muscle, as he led a gang. But he was also an idiot, like he accidentally detonated a bomb on himself whilst trying to set the fuse. Now they just needed a target. They picked a money delivery in the city of Tiflis, now Tbilisi, capital of Georgia. The gang decided to carry their bombs into the city inside sofas. On the 26th of June 1907, a carriage was being drawn through the city. Reports vary on how much it was carrying, but I got a rough estimate of about 300,000 rubles, which is about $3 million today. Stalin comes along like the Pink Panther into the square near the bank, along the route of the carriage, and meets his gang. Some of the gangsters hid inside a local tavern and stopped people from leaving. Oh, it seems that we're being held hostage. The gang, including Stalin, were all dressed as peasants, except for Camo, who was dressed as a cavalry officer. Camo had his own special kind of cart, called a phaeton. Then, the chaos started. Out of the crowd, the gang threw their improvised bombs at the carriage. Apparently, the explosions were so strong that chimneys nearby began to collapse. But, you know what they say. Even the best laid plans go wrong with bombs. One of the horses began to run, pulling the money cart with it, so Camo and some others began to chase it. One guy threw a bomb at it, and then remembered he was right next to it. The horse's legs were blown off, whilst he was knocked to the floor. Camo grabbed a lot of the moolah and put it on his phaeton, then galloped away, making off with a lot of money. As for Stalin, well, he might not have actually done anything. Instead, he had just planned it and watched from afar. But, if you ask me, I'd say that he single-handedly pulled off the robbery. And for the most part, the money was successfully moved out of Russia. But the wacky misadventure didn't really end there. Lenin heard about the robbery and went, and ran for fear that it could be connected to him. Lenin was running across a frozen lake, and there was almost an alternate timeline, as the ice started to give way and he could have drowned. Anyway, he made it to Switzerland. On another occasion, a woman was trying to meet up with some of the perpetrators and had plans to move some of the money. Police caught wind of this and started to question her while she was carrying evidence. She tried to Mr. Gibbs it and swallowed her instructions, only for the police to literally start choking her until she coughed them back up. I think it's fitting to see what happened to our gang of plucky protagonists. Well, Lenin and Stalin went on to lead Russia light, yada yada yada. Camo was arrested and tried to feign insanity, so, among other things, he ate his own excrement. After burning him with a hot iron, the doctors gave up and were like, well, this guy's crazy. He ended up escaping prison by sawing through some of the window bars and using a homemade rope. Camo kept on living his best life until he was struck down by a truck in 1922, maybe being silenced by the government. Stalin always wins. Well then,